economic muscles in the military development. Modi is focusing on incentivizing all people other than Muslims living in South Asia to work
Right.
against their countries and take refuge in India. So all these things are definitely not appreciable, especially when these postures are compatible with the ideological niche and ideological doctrinal development in India, which is aggression and which is to market India as a bullying state which is capable to inflict harm upon the region. So this
All right.
is Hindutva is a destabilizing actor, the
All right.
destabilizing factor for the whole region.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Asma Shakir Khwaja Saiba. Thank you so much, Ambassador Kiani, for your presence. It's a pleasure, sir, to have you always, Brigadier Saab. Now, interestingly, I think when we talk about Soviet Union and its disintegration, I guess the Americans played a role. Even we played a role. And the resistance of the Afghan fighters, that was too much. And later on, whatever happened, we all know how the economy matters. It's not the number of weapons you have or the kind of arsenal you have in your stores. But I think there are certain more factors. But as far as India is concerned, I think the major factor for their disintegration is not going to be from the external front. I think Modi and his policies would slowly but surely lead there. Anyway, thank you so much for watching the show. I'll see you again. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.
What is the real Pakistani society about? What are our beliefs and what are our aspirations? Reflecting the true picture of our otherwise misunderstood Pakistani society. Reality versus perception. Where do we see our place in the global society? Join me, Fatma Shaheen, in rediscovering the real Pakistani society.
Politics is not everybody's cup of tea. In Pakistan, politics has endless possibilities. Politics is the art of the possible. But we have got you covered. Debate. For in-depth analysis. And insight. Watch Politics Today every Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday at 9:05 p.m. with me, Farrukh Pitafi.
Picking up for the unpopular. Calling out the controversial. Upholding the right of free speech. Giving you all the perspectives and letting you understand the true one. And I seek views and opinions. My name is Farrukh. Watch Perspective every Thursday and Friday at 9:05 p.m. on PTV World.
Welcome to PTV World News. With the latest news updates, I'm Sana Makbool and these are the headlines of the hour. Federal Minister for Information Shibli Farrukh says the Federal Cabinet accords approval to single-member inquiry commission comprising Justice retired Azmat Zaid to probe broadsheet allegations. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi says international human rights organizations and the media are exposing Indian oppression in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Kashmiris on both sides of the line of control and the world over are observing Indian Republic Day as Black Day to draw world attention towards continued Indian occupation in occupied Kashmir, depriving the Kashmiris of their right to self-determination for the last 73 years. Indian farmers stormed Delhi's Red Fort as tens of thousands protesting against Modi government's controversial farm laws enter the Indian capital on the country's Republic Day. Fifty-eight more people die of coronavirus in the country during 24 hours. 1,873 people test positive out of 42,587 tests conducted. The World Health Organization issues fresh clinical advice for treating COVID-19 patients, including those displaying persistent symptoms after recovery, and says it advises using low-dose anticoagulants to prevent blood clots. Pakistan were 33 for 4 at stumps in reply to South Africa's first innings 220 on the opening day of the first cricket test at the National Stadium, Karachi. PTV Sports telecast the match live. Those are the headlines. For details and live streaming, log on to our website world.ptv.com.pk. You can find us on our Facebook page with the name PTV World and follow us on Twitter at WorldPTV. It's goodbye for now.
Sitar is a plucked stringed instrument used in Pakistani classical music. The instrument flourished under the Mughal Empire. Sitar is named after a Persian word, setar, meaning 3 strings. It derives its distinctive timbre and resonance from sympathetic strings, bridge design, a long hollow neck, and a gourd-shaped resonance chamber. There are many popular modern styles of sitar, offered in a variety of substyles and decorative patterns.
Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farrukh Pitafi. Once again we are going to talk about Pakistan's politics, particularly about this balance between activism and reconciliation or governance. Because it seems that many opposition leaders also actually keep on claiming that the federal government is still in an activist mode and it is not reaching out to the opposition. And yet, we saw that there was a great opportunity today in the parliament when the opposition parliamentary parties were invited to a meeting by the government and they refused to show up. And according to one minister, it was pointed out that it was on the call of Maryam Nawaz Sharif, who is not herself an elected person. This is a very important question because in this country, of course, we have had huge issues of governance and we have repeatedly flagged them, repeatedly highlighted them. The second very important aspect, very important thing is accountability, and even in accountability, we have seen many concerns and repeatedly governments after governments have been talking about it, and yet when these governments actually are reduced to opposition, we see that they keep on complaining about the same institutions. Today, broadsheet matter was given a new lifeline by the federal government because the federal government actually instituted the commission that is going to probe into the matter. We are going to talk about all these matters and more in order to help us understand these issues. We are joined by Waleed Iqbal Saab, Senator of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Excuse me. Naseem Siddiqui Saab joins us in the studio as well, who is a senior journalist. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. And other guests are going to join us in a short while via Skype and telephone. I'm going to introduce them the moment they do join. Let me ask Waleed Iqbal Saab about the government's ability to reach out to the opposition. On one side, government says that it wants to reach out and it wants to create an environment where lawmaking actually takes place, because the margins in the National Assembly and even in Senate are really very narrow. But then everybody is criticizing the opposition all the time. So it seems that the government cannot bring the government and opposition together in the parliament.
Well, in an ideal world, and I was a bit amused when you started your introduction or preamble. You started by telling your viewers that today, yet again, we are going to talk about Pakistan's politics.
The program's name is Politics Today.
Yes.
So we have to talk about Pakistan's politics occasionally, right?
Absolutely, and I think at this hour, everybody is watching Pakistan politics. They are not watching entertainment shows. Okay. Most of the population. Is that also right? I think you would know because of ratings.
Just 9 o'clock is usually news content, correct, but in English, of course, it is.
Yes. So anyhow, coming to the question you have asked, in Pakistan's politics, these, what you have just described, government of the time, whosoever's government it may be, reaching out to the opposition, right, opposition being difficult, vice versa, the opposition being conciliatory, and sometimes governments are difficult. So these ups and downs or these trends are nothing new per se. Let me tell you this: the government is not dying to have a reconciliation with the opposition. The government is not craving it with any degree of...
And is the government also not craving to pass any legislative business at all?
No, of course, but let me tell you, you have said, I have to correct something. Yes, at this moment, the snapshot right now is not a thin majority in the National Assembly. Yeah, it's a relatively, a thin majority in the coalition government in the National Assembly. But presently, the opposition is in an overwhelming majority in the Senate. Right. It's more like 60-40 or 65-35 sort of a configuration at the moment, which is going to change in a few weeks' time. And PTI is going to become the largest party. So even if we are craving, it's a good thing in a democratic setup. It's a good thing that there is some degree of understanding between the government and the opposition can make give its input in legislation, and governments tend to incorporate that, and that's the ideal world. But it's not I mean, it's not a disabling situation where the government must reach out to the opposition.
Right.
And the government, the Prime Minister has, and other spokespersons of the government have
Yeah.
been very clear that there is going to, the door is open for the opposition on every subject except two,
Okay.
you know,
Right. Walid Iqbal
the
sahab,
NRO or corruption.
right. Walid Iqbal sahab, it is said that the taste of a pudding in its eating. And with due respect, when you talk about your government, yesterday your government actually hit the halfway mark, exactly 2.5 years. And since then, when you came into power, I will ask you, how many laws have you actually passed in the National Assembly? But I'm going to come back to you, sir. Let me welcome the third guest who joins us on Skype. Barrister Asad Rahim joins us via Skype. Asad Rahim is a young lawyer, constitutional expert, also a very prolific writer and talk show host. Thank you very much, Asad, for being part of the program. Let me first go back to the guest in the studio, then I'm going to come back to you. Naseem Siddiqui Saab, regarding this situation where it seems that everything is stuck somewhere, right? I mean, Senate might not be, at this moment, the numbers in the Senate might not be in government's favor. It might change in 2 weeks.
It will change, inshallah.
It might. Okay, I'm a journalist, so I have to be open to the possibility of some kind of disruption. But if even if it might, so far we haven't seen National Assembly passing any significant bills either. So who's going to take care of all these matters?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much, Farrukh. As I have been covering the National Assembly, and we have discussed before as well, that the opposition just want NRO when they come to the National Assembly. They don't participate, they don't put the things on the floor which for which the people of Pakistan have sent to them to the National Assembly. And you can see that the cabinet meetings are very regular. We must appreciate that in the tenure of Prime Minister Imran Khan, there are regular meetings of cabinet. So they are doing their work.
And in comparison, when you recall Mian Nawaz Sharif's government, at that time Supreme Court had to actually order the cabinet to meet.
The kitchen cabinet used to take the decisions, but this is very good thing that the cabinet takes decisions every week.
But,
so Prime Minister is working. He is working from 9 to 9.
But you're complimenting one branch of government for something, for a question that was about the second branch. I'm talking about legislative branch. You're talking about executive.
No, I'm talking about executive as well, and I have given you the idea for the legislative as well, that the opposition is not ready to do their business in the National Assembly as they just go for the NRO. As you were asking that opposition, government is ready to have dialogues with opposition, but the opposition is not only Bilawal or Mariam or Shahid Khaqan Abbasi, there are many other people in the opposition as well.
Like whom?
Like Kaira Saab in People's Party, or those who have clean hands.
Hang on. Is Kaira Saab going to disregard the order of Bhutto family, of the Zardari family, to actually do whatever they want?
That they should know that they have been part of the party for a long time, but only those people who are engaged with the NAB at the moment, and they want NRO, and that's the opposition.
Right, that is a big question. Let me also include in the program and welcome in the program Senator Sitara Ayaz, a senator from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, actually was elected on the ticket of ANP. But there are concerns about that as well. Senator Sahaba, thank you very much for being part of the program. The question right now is that it seems that PDM is also purposing at this moment. It doesn't seem to be able to pick a direction. But do you think that at this moment the Parliament of Pakistan is functioning properly and it is passing the laws the way it is supposed to?
Well, as you mentioned, that PDM is in full swing right now, but there are so many conspiracies also going on social media and on other channels also, that there is something between the parties going on. But as far as the Parliament is concerned, if we are talking about the Senate, in Senate, yes, there are so many bills coming up, and even yesterday, private member bill, Many private members are bringing bills, but what we saw in the near past, we saw that many of our legislators are not interested in legislation. They are mainly coming to criticize each other, and I must say that it's on both sides, government and opposition both. And the government is spending a lot of money on parliament when they are coming to attend the parliament. So I think that both
Ma'am, that might be a serious concern, and I appreciate the both sidism here as well. But the concern right now is that regardless of whatever happens, I am a citizen of this country, and I keep on looking for examples where the problems are being fixed. There are many problems in our legal and constitutional parts, and those bits are not being fixed, despite the fact that all political parties keep on flagging them. Shouldn't it be a big concern that the entire political class cannot come together to produce the results that are needed for people?
You are very much right. I agree with you that they fail to. In fact, they are criticizing each other, but both the sides are responsible for this thing. As they said, that Parliament is supreme, and people are sending these people to solve their problems, to solve the problems of this country. We are talking about macro problems and micro both. We should have concern for both, because it is the general public. They have concerns for this thing. So I think that it's a time now that generally we all should think about it, the flaws which we have in our democratic process or in the parliament. We should think about it. Otherwise,
and we have to talk about that, ma'am. I'm going to come back to you. Do stay with us. Let me bring in Barrister Asad Rahim. Barrister Asad Rahim, last time you were in this program, we were talking about Senate elections, and I asked you about this presidential reference regarding open ballot or show of hands. You have seen the proceedings. It is going to contribute immensely to the political mix in coming days. Are you optimistic that there is going to be some kind of positive judgment in this context?
Thank you so much for having me, Farrukh Saab. I am optimistic that the Supreme Court will delineate in very clear terms what the federal government can and cannot do. The major point of contention we saw between the Attorney General's office and the political opposition is whether it will require amending the Constitution or whether a simple amendment to the Election Act of 2017 can suffice to have open balloting. But I would want to say, Farrukh Saab, this is maybe one small step. And the overall system, the Senate was given to us in the Constitution of 1973. There need to be direct elections. The rules of procedure for the Senate need to be reformed. The money bill that the Senate has no jurisdiction over, that also needs to be changed. And to pivot back to the conversation you were having earlier in the show, if the federal government of the day wants to push forward its legislative agenda, it will have to sit with the opposition. We're not seeing any headway on local governments, on land redistribution, on new provinces like South Punjab. For those big ticket reforms, you will need to sit with the opposition in Parliament.
Asad, regarding the last bit that you have mentioned, and that is something very close to my heart as well. But here's the question. The opposition parties seem to be guided by one dynasty or one family or one individual. In that situation, do you really think that any political party is going to debate anything without discussion about NAB laws and some kind of relief and accountability pursuits?
Well, I feel, Farrukh Saab, that for all the sound and fury with regards to the NAB laws, I've yet to see a very serious alternative bill put forward by the opposition, and that goes back to just how the intellectual poverty that our supposed shadow governments are actually facing. You should put forward a legislative alternative and express exactly how you want this ordinance amended in a way that the People's Party and the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz were not able to do over the past 10 years. A sneaking suspicion tells me that even now the agenda is not legislative and they would like to use NAB for the exact same purposes that the PTI is using it right now. With regards to dynasty, again, I think the solution is local governments. It will create an entirely new class of political representatives, of elected representatives who know what their constituents' dreams and aspirations are. The other solution to dynasties is primary elections that I think all political parties start instituting.
Yeah, but somebody has to actually start somewhere, and the biggest problem so far is that political parties have been meeting, and despite that, we haven't seen that kind of electoral reform within political parties or elsewhere. Let me go back to Walid Iqbal Sahab. Walid Iqbal Sahab, at this moment, there are many laws that you need to actually pass to take care of the business, especially when it comes to the case of amending the constitution. You need two-third majority. You don't have two-third majority, and at this moment you need that, and you cannot reach out to the opposition. Opposition is not ready to talk to you without an NRO, your proposition. So what happens? Why not actually call new elections then?
The constitution stipulates that the term of a government is 5 years, and to call any new election.
Term of a parliament is 5 years.
A term of, yes, a parliament is 5 years.
Government can be elected or removed.
Well, the term of the person enjoying, or the party enjoying the confidence of the majority is 5 years.
It is maximum limit, not the minimum.
That is, yes, it's the maximum limit, and it of course envisages also what is called a mid-term election, which merely means it could be just 1 month before the term expires, but that would be a mid-term. But that is a prerogative of the leader of the house. Only the leader of the house can take that step, and you know, that's is his or her own assessment of whether it should be done or not. It should not be done. So there is no reason why the government feels there is a need to do that right now.
Okay.
And
I just gave you the example. You had to approach the Supreme Court of Pakistan with via presidential reference just to take care of this business regarding secret ballot or show of hands in the Senate elections. You could have easily done it if you had two-third majority in the parliament. You don't have it. You don't even can take opposition on board. So what else is there to do?
Well, let me tell you first of all, because the NRO, the notion of the expression NRO has come up a few times in this show. I will address what you have questioned just now, but I want to elaborate on that. That you know, it would be in order to point out that you're talking about legislation. There have been you know, key bills that were passed by both houses involving you know. The FATF legislation. There were 7 or 8 you know, acts of parliament.
Yeah, but they were exceptional circumstances.
And in some
army chief's extension also.
Some part of them, the opposition cooperated with the government, and for the other part, the government had to call a joint sitting. And you know, over there also there was a sort of a thin majority, but the government was able to prevail. And in the process of taking up the proposed legislation at the time, the opposition tried to, you know, bully the government or strong arm them into making 34 amendments to 38 sections of the National Accountability Ordinance of 1999. And I hope you've seen, I mean, there have been colleagues of mine who've been waving that manuscript in front of TV cameras, and it very much speaks for itself. It was like completely, you know, stripping the National Accountability Ordinance of all its efficacy. It completely defanging, you know, I mean, raising the threshold of, you know, a crime that could be questioned or investigated.
Actually, changing the definition also of money laundering.
Removing money laundering from it, which Pakistan is under international conventions could not do that, so on and so forth. So, and you also pointed out that there was the legislation involving the extension of the term of the services chiefs, all three services.
At that time, one man was in
legislation has been taking place. There have been examples. I mean, okay, so this is not completely, if you would say, without any. I mean, look, when the National Assembly was elected in 2018, there was a deadlock for nearly 4 months involving constitution of the National Assembly standing committees, for the reason that the opposition had just taken a firm position on the leader of the opposition becoming the chairman of the National Accounts Committee.
Right.
Eventually, the government accommodated him.
Yeah.
Then his
After 6
replacement-
months.
Then, no, 4 months. It happened in
Yeah,
December.
so
between
6 months of agitation, and then you agree, and then they quit.
Later on, and after that also, the replacement, which is Rana Tanveer, the MNA from Sheikhupura, also that the government didn't come in the way, and they let it happen. So there are examples of cooperation even in this government, but as far as the making of a constitutional amendment is concerned, let me also point out that the certain bills calling for transparency in the Senate elections were to the effect that it should be either through open vote or through proportional vote, just like you have reserved seats in the National Assembly.
Yeah, but
party positions automatically translate into Senate seats.
Okay.
But those bills have been sitting with the committees in the National Assembly since September or October 2020. And the opposition did not cooperate, although they all said one time or the other in their manifestos also, certain of the parties
they want transparency.
provided that they want to change the process of Senate law. So there again is bad faith. And let me tell you, the people are in the market now.
Okay.
You know, prices have now being negotiated of buying MPA's votes in various provincial assemblies, and this is a terrible, horrible, condemnable practice. Unfortunately,
but I want to talk about the procedure.
In his wisdom, the Attorney General feels that this is a question of law that for which interpretation can be sought from the Supreme Court under its advisory jurisdiction in terms of Article 186.
Right.
And you know, we have
and here's the thing.
If the interpretation we are seeking is found to be the interpretation or declared to be the interpretation, the correct interpretation by the Supreme Court, we will, of course, we've taken the step in good faith in the interest of transparency,
and if it is
honesty. And if it is not, we will just go. Obviously, we have to be obey.
You realize
we have to obey the order of the Supreme Court.
But you realize that
at least we had tried. You know, there's a saying. There's a 100% chance of failure if you don't try. So we have at least tried.
But you're not trying where you could have easily tried.
We did try opposition
in the parliament. You don't reach out. You don't reach out.
I mean,
you were talking about
we reach out. What we get is 34 changes to 38.
No, sir, with due respect, you were talking about 4 months. Okay, let's say 4 months of delay in electing or choosing the head of Public Accounts Committee, right? That only thing actually held back the creation of committees for 4 months. That is a big issue because that then delayed the legislative business. Naseem Siddiqui Sahab, let us talk about executive because you actually were praising the executive, right? Do you think everything is hunky-dory? There's no price constraints, there are no other issues at all in the functioning of governance right now?
There are too many issues. Like price inflation or things like that, it's happening all over the world at the moment because of COVID. But government is very much serious.
Hang on. Inflation doesn't happen because of COVID. Actually, recession does.
Recession does as well.
So the prices go down, not up.
Yeah, but at the moment you can see
people
the prices
cannot buy.
Yeah, but there are too many mafias sitting in Pakistan as well. Okay. So you can see that what they are doing at the moment.
And who is going to go after those mafias?
So it's definitely government is trying their best. I'm not here to defend the government, but
no, but
question you have asked that Prime Minister Imran Khan or PTA, they are very much serious about these things. They have meetings every day. They have cabinet meetings as well. They are trying to sort it out.
You realize that the job of an anchor is to be contrarian.
Oh, yeah.
If you were going to support the opposition, I was going to actually ask questions about the opposition's performance. The question right now is that when governance is an issue, and you are saying that they are mafias, how do you actually take care of the mafias?
No, the government is taking care of them. There are too many proceedings in the courts as well.
Federal, provincial or the local?
Federal is looking after as well because...
No, but federal doesn't exist in the same sphere as the...
But they are doing their part at the moment.
Price hike is local.
As you were asking about the executive role, so they are doing their part at the moment, and there are some different provincial governments at the moment. Federal government has no control over state government.
Do you think that our executive tiers are complete? The local government is not there.
No, local government, without local government, the tiers are not complete.
Right.
They should be local governments so that the functions of the government could be in a proper way.
Right. Yeah. Why do we not have local government elections then?
You can ask the government
your understanding.
I don't have any idea. for this one.
Right. I'm going to ask the government as
Yeah.
well, because that is the next question that I'm going to go for. But let me go back to Sitara Yar Sahiba. Sitara Yar Sahiba, your government also, your party was also in government for quite some time. You're part of PDM. And every time I hear PDM leaders talk about anything, I don't hear the mention that much of local government or local government elections. Why do you think that is?
I think they must, because local government is very important, and one of the reasons why we have all these problems, it is that we don't have a local government, proper local government. It was like there was a election, and after that, when they completed their tenure, after that there is no election. And in any party, they are no one is like interested to go to them because of so many things. And that is the one thing is that the MPAs or MNAs, they want to keep everything to themselves. They don't want to go to to give their power to the local administration. And I think it's the main reason why we are having all these problems right now. But and as I said in the beginning, that on both the sides, it's a problem of both sides.
Ma'am, with due respect, you're saying that the provinces don't want to give power to the local governments, right? Is it?
Yes,
it is what you are saying.
Yes, they. And
Yeah, but you
whoever is in the
realize
government,
that
it is not
that
only
might
one government.
contribute to a dysfunction, which in the end actually contribute to the decline of the image of the political class.
Yes, it is, and I agree with it. Being a part of the government back in 2008, I noticed this thing that many of the political people, they are reluctant to give their powers to the local government, and that's why we are not able. It is not only one party. Whoever is in the government, they are reluctant to give their powers to the local bodies. We do talk about it all the time. But when practically we are in government, when practically we have a power, we are reluctant then to give that power to the local governments. So if we start giving like properly, because these National Assemblies, Senate, and provincial assemblies, they're supposed to go to do good legislations. They are not supposed to.
But I hope you realize that inevitably it is going to impact the image of the political class, and that includes everybody, and that is a huge concern. Let me go back to Barrister Asad Rahim. Asad Rahim, I don't know about you, I am not much for judicial activism, but during the previous government I kept on welcoming two aspects which were very important. The intervention by the judiciary on census, because we didn't have census in the country, and second thing was local government elections. And it seemed that the judiciary was actually pushing to complete the 3 tiers of government. Right now it seems that this the third tier seems to be stillborn or non-existent. Why do you think that the entire national discourse is not focusing on that concern at all?
Well, like you said, Farrukh Saab, the judiciary only intervened when its hand was forced. And I think it's Sitara Sahiba's plain spokenness, or truthfulness, that she said that political representatives are unwilling. Why are they unwilling? Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf is in charge in Punjab, it is in charge in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, it is in coalition with BAP and Balochistan. So if the provinces are unwilling, the party in charge of 3 provinces, more or less, should be compelling further legislative action. The apprehension is that Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz has a presence at the grassroots, which will jeopardize their local governments in Punjab. For the exact same reason, Pakistan People's Party does not devolve power in Sindh, because the apprehension is that Muttahida Qawmi Movement is in charge of local bodies in Karachi. And until this core apprehension remains, PTI has wheel-jammed its own local government process, which was a very basic aspect, as you know yourself, Farrukh Saab, you've been following this process throughout, a very basic aspect of its own manifesto. So I would really hope that PTI in at least 2 provinces, if not Balochistan, and Pakistan People's Party in Sindh actually forgets complete control or really authority control
I understand that one can actually hold the government responsible for not holding elections in the places where it or the ruling party is in power. But why do we not actually question People's Party's intent? It has been in power in Sindh for over 1 decade, and if you look at the overall body of elections, it has been there for quite some time, and it keeps on actually undermining the local government processes. Why do you think that is happening? Why is the political class opposed to this idea?
Well, Farrukh Saab, I'm mentioning People's Party in the same sentence as PTI. Of course, if the PTI has just shown up in 2018, you have maybe a smidge more of an expectation from an untested political party than from People's Party, which used to be a progressive national party and has now devolved into some sort of strange rentier feudal bloodline. And it's an overarching dynasty, and now it has small mini dynasties underneath. I don't see Pakistan People's Party doing anything until it is actually electorally kicked out of Sindh. Whether that alternative is GDA, whether it's PTI, whether it's MQM somehow making it into the non-urban areas, that's a question that has to be answered. But I think Pakistan People's Party has really holistically failed. Besides, I think a few good pieces of legislation.
Right. Waleed Iqbal Sahab, this was a question that he asked I should put to you. You realize your party has been advocate of local government, right? And yet you are in power for 2.5 years. You haven't held the elections. And we keep on hearing about this model or that. A fully functioning local government will help the federal government in taking care of business.
Certainly, you are absolutely right. We have been advocating the cause of decentralization of powers, taking them down to the grassroots. And let me also tell you, I think your other guest pointed out, that under Article 140A of the Constitution, the responsibility to hold local government elections and to devolve political and economic and all those other powers and duties to local governments is the obligation or the responsibility of the provincial government.
Okay.
And during the previous round, between 2015 and 2019, in fact, and this is not our own claim, it is a neutral body such as PILDAT that had declared that out of all the 4 provinces, the most effective decentralization has taken place in KP.
Where you were in power.
In KP, where we were in power. And of course, when you said that 2.5 years have passed, the thing is that the previous local bodies, that their terms actually expired
last year
in 2019 in some cases, and in some cases 2020.
Totally.
So firstly, there is the thing about the expiration of the terms, and secondly, of course, what we were trying to do, particularly in the Punjab, is to introduce a system where there is genuine devolution, unlike the predecessor system where there was just a eyewash sort of a local bodies system.
You're talking about Nawaz era, or you're talking about Musharraf era?
The Nawaz era. No, in fact, what I have to acknowledge grudgingly, even though constitutional deviations and military rulers' pet projects are almost invariably a good local government system. And I said grudgingly acknowledge that. For example, the only time in active memory that there was genuine development in Karachi was during Musharraf era, because he introduced an effective system of local government, first under Niamatullah, who was the mayor from Jamaat-e-Islami, and then second under Mustafa Kamal, who was the mayor under MQM. So the genuine problems of this metropolis was solved, or at least better solved than other eras, because of a good local government system. So you will see, inshallah, that even under the present scenario, it will be, the lead will be that of Punjab and the
Can you give us any kind of timeline?
I am to understand presently that at least in the Punjab, and the Prime Minister has also, he was in Lahore a few days ago, this was taken up, and the indicative date that I have, or month at least, is either September or October. So it will be in the second half.
This year.
In the second half of 2020 in the Punjab. And I'm sure it will be, the KP local government elections will be on the heels.
Right.
And let me also jump quickly to another topic which you had brought up earlier.
But I want to actually talk about the local government.
I mentioned PILDAT to you.
Yeah.
PILDAT also, this is the only time in recent few years that it actually assessed parties on internal democracy and non-dynastic systems, and it declared Jamaat-e-Islami as the #1 most democratic party, and #2 was PTI.
So,
so
that would be not a compliment but failure of others, with your respect. Your party used to hold internal elections, but then you stopped doing it, right?
We are in the process
but regardless of that, let me come back to the local government and let us look under the hood. In comparison to Musharraf's proposal, Musharraf's local government failed because of the economic accountability and autonomy issue, right, at the local grassroots level. Your party actually has changed the tier. You're not going for district governments. You're going for the village or the town. I'm afraid I have not studied why Musharraf's system failed, or whether it failed at all or not, or didn't get a proper chance. But I gave you one example that at least in a place like Karachi, there was an effective system, and the people and the city were being served well under that system.
Even in Lahore as well,
and in Lahore
was there, yes.
So I haven't studied, or I wouldn't jump to declare that it failed.
No,
but nevertheless,
they're bigger. You're talking about two big cities, Karachi and Lahore. I mean, elsewhere, the local body said that they didn't have access to the funds they needed.
To answer your question, we are trying to introduce a system which is genuinely representative and genuinely empowering.
Why?
And for example, for big cities like Lahore, the mayoral election is meant to be through direct election, just like in other metropolises of the world. So, but let me also jump in quickly and say that there are these challenges of the pandemic, and a local government election across the whole province is a very large-scale operation. So due care for that has to also be exercised. It is at this time anticipated that after the summer months, just like we faced in 2020, we had a real, low in terms of the hit that the pandemic was making onto the population. Perhaps at that time, there have been elections in other parts of the world.
But regarding, no matter whatever we do, we have to talk about elections because elections are due. And the question is, if war and terror doesn't stop us from holding elections, if so many other things don't, why should this? Right? But Naseem Siddiqui Sahab, I'm told that we are running out of time. Let me very quickly ask you, and we have to actually put our own profession on the mat here as well. You participate in various programs and various channels. When was the last time we discussed local government?
I don't remember seriously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know, you know better.
Yeah, journalist, come on. I mean, you have to answer.
Because there are too many other things. We have been discussing Kashmir most of the time.
Don't bring Kashmir here.
Then
because
PDM,
most of the talk shows don't talk about Kashmir most of the time.
Yeah, but I'm talking about here.
Not in this channel.
Okay, the other channels, no, I don't know. They didn't.
No, he wants us both to congratulate him for bringing it.
I'm just reminding. I just want to make a point that media keeps on dropping the ball.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because there are too many issues day by day, like PDM processions were to talk of the town at the moment.
But with due respect, talk shows are supposed to dig deep into stories, right?
Yeah.
And here's the question. How much ball-to-ball commentary can you have regarding PDM?
But this is a very good point raised by you, that local government's issue is a very important issue. If you want to serve the people of Pakistan, then from the grassroots level.
Very quickly, is it true that not only political class, but our profession is also failing the people?
Exactly, you are right. Okay. I agree with you, yes.
Right. Let me very quickly ask Sitara.
You don't want to see me in other programs,
yeah?
I think. You don't want to see me in other programs.
Well, why would I say anything of the sort? Sitara Sahib, very quickly, if you want to add to the discussion that is going on, please do your conclusion. Sitara Sahib. Okay, now there seems to be some disconnect. Let me ask Asad Rahim Sahib, your conclusion, sir, very quickly.
Very quickly, sir, we need local governments. I very humbly disagree with respected senator. I don't think Karachi was the example for local governments. The thing about military dictatorship is it cannot remain enduring. So the cost of good local governments was an empire of organized crime under Mr. Altaf Hussain. We expect that democratic governments like this one will actually put in something, a legislative agenda that will not be subject to rollback by Muslim League or People's Party as was done before, because the previous regime lacked electoral legitimacy. It's very, very important that this party and People's Party in Sindh now push that forward. We need a new class of elected representatives which will actually devolve our democracy the way the Constitution mandates.
And who is going to come up with that elected class? Where do you actually make it?
No, I actually think that the constant push and pull of the evolution of local governments getting elected will ensure that somebody's great grandchild will not be, lording over us for the next 40 years.
All right. Okay, Asad Rahim, I'm told that we have to conclude the program. Thank you very much for your precious time. Thank you very much for your contribution. Sitara Ayasaiba was also with us. And let me thank her, even though she doesn't seem to be connected right now into the program. Let me thank Walid Iqbal Sahab. Thank you very much for being part of the program. Naseem Siddiqui Sahab, I expected that you are going to defend the media like hell. You didn't. And I'm glad you didn't. Thank you very much for being part of the program too. Viewers, you have listened to our participants. The discussion about Pakistan's politics will continue. But the choice which issue to actually focus on is also important. We can keep on talking about Maryam Nawaz's speeches or her style. We can talk about the Prime Minister of Pakistan's style as well. But in the end, we are journalists. We have to, excuse me, we have to highlight the issues that are there and which might be actually pushing or putting a systemic pressure on day-to-day governance. These are important issues. Let us keep on talking about them as well and keep on flagging them. Without that, perhaps we are not doing our job well. And given what is happening in India, where farmers are agitating, we have to realize that the common citizens of the country cannot be taken for granted. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching us. Take care.
Sticking up for the unpopular, calling out the controversial, upholding the right of free speech, giving you all the perspectives and letting you understand the true one. And I speak views and opinions